Today, we're going to dive into the simple but incredibly powerful philosophy of the late, great Jim Rohn. We're going to use his own stories to basically piece together a framework for what he called designing an extraordinary life. So, let's get right into it. So, picture this. It all started for him at absolute rock bottom. Jim Rohn is 25 years old and he's flat broke. I mean, he's working hard, but he's somehow getting poorer every single year. And then one day, a little Girl Scout knocks on his door selling cookies. The price? Just $2. But Rohn didn't have it. He just didn't have $2. So he lied. He told her they'd already bought some from another scout. And as he watched her walk away, he just said to himself, I don't want to live like this anymore. Sometimes it takes a moment like that, right? That embarrassing moment was his turning point. It kicked off this desperate search for answers, which eventually led him to a man who would become his mentor, a guy named Earl Showoff. And over the next 5 years, Showoff totally rewired Rohn's brain. And it all began with one single core idea. And here it is. This simple sentence changed literally everything for Jim Rohn. See, before this, he'd been waiting. He was waiting for the government to change, for his taxes to go down, for the economy to get better. But his mentor showed him that was a completely backwards way of looking at it. The real insight is this. Your life isn't shaped by what happens out there. It's shaped by what happens in here. So you got to stop waiting for the world to change for you and start changing yourself. This idea completely flipped his mindset. Instead of wishing for an easier life, he started wishing that he were better. Instead of wishing for fewer problems, because let's face it, problems are always going to be there, he started wishing for more skills. The whole point isn't to somehow avoid all of life's challenges. It's about building yourself up so you can overcome them. Okay, so this whole way of thinking became the absolute foundation of Rohn's entire framework for personal development. It's a simple little phrase, but man, it has massive implications for where you put your focus and your energy. This was a huge aha moment for him. Think about it. You work hard on your job, sure. You can make a living, it pays the bills. It's basically a transaction. You're trading your time for money. But a fortune? That's something else entirely. That comes from increasing your value. Working on your skills, your communication, your mindset, your character, that's what makes you more valuable. Success isn't something you chase down. It's something you attract by the person you become. All right, so Rohn also had this really powerful metaphor for understanding how life works, its natural cycles. He called it the 4 seasons, and he used it as a kind of map for navigating everything from your career to your personal life. The key insight here is so simple, but so profound. You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. Winter is always going to come. Those are the tough times, the recessions, the personal difficulties. You can't wish them away. You just have to use that time to get stronger and wiser. Then comes spring, the season of opportunity. That's your chance to go out and plant the seeds, to take action. In the summer, you got to protect what you've started. The weeds and pests will show up. You have to nourish your efforts and defend them. And then comes the harvest. You reap what you've sown. You get to accept the results of your labor, whatever they are, without complaint and without apology. So, if we learn to navigate these seasons the right way, what's the ultimate goal here? Well, for Jim Rohn, it was never just about survival. It was about learning to produce, and eventually to produce in such abundance that it changes everything. Rohn saw life as this path of expanding responsibility. Look, first, you just learn to survive, produce enough for yourself. Then maybe you get a partner. You learn to produce enough for 2. Then you provide for your family. But a truly rich life, he said, that begins when you can flourish, when you can produce more than you need. That's when generosity becomes possible. But an extraordinary life? That comes from producing far more than you could ever need. He talked about Andrew Carnegie, who spent the first half of his life making a fortune and the second half giving it all away. Rohn's challenge to everyone was simple. Why not aim for that? So how do you actually do that? How do you reach that kind of abundance? Well, Rohn wasn't about inventing some complicated new theory. Instead, he was a collector of timeless truths. He called them success equations, simple formulas he found everywhere in history, politics, and business. And what's so powerful is when you look at these together, they're all pointing to the exact same truth. Whether it's ancient wisdom saying that service to many leads to greatness, or a political icon like JFK saying, ask not what your country can do for you, or a business legend like Zig Ziglar saying if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. The message is identical. The key to an extraordinary life isn't about what you get, it's about what you give. It's about finding a way to serve other people. So when you boil it all down, Ron's ultimate message is this. We have all the evidence we need. We can look at the lives of successful people throughout history, and we know it's possible. It is absolutely possible for anyone to take these ideas, working harder on yourself, understanding the seasons, focusing on service, and to completely redesign their life.
Now, the philosophy is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It demands that you take 100% responsibility for your life. So the question isn't whether an extraordinary life is possible. We already know it is. The real question, the only one that matters, is this. Your life is a story being written right now. What are you going to do starting today to make it an extraordinary one?